Today's Take 5 with the Saints, May 1st, is actually a major feast day, but it's Sunday, so we're celebrating a little more modestly here today. It is the feast day of Saints Philip and James. It's a major day because it's two of Jesus' disciples. Philip, you might know a little bit more about. You're going to actually hear him in the gospel we're going to read here in just a moment. James, on the other hand, there are two James who were Jesus' disciples. There is James, the son of Zebedee, the brother of John, who is one of what is seemingly one of the inner circle of Jesus' disciples. And then there is today's James, who is known as James, son of Alphaeus, James the Less, or James the Younger, depending on which version of the story you hear, which, needless to say, isn't much about this particular James, just a couple of mentions in various lists, and one important mention at the cross of Jesus in Mark's Gospel. So, let's take a look at our Gospel for today's feast day, which comes out of John chapter 14, verses 6 through 14. Jesus said to his disciples, "I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. If you know me, you will know my Father also. From now on you do know him and have seen him." Philip said to Jesus, "Lord, show us the Father, and we will be satisfied." Jesus said to him, "Have I been with you all this time, Philip, and you still do not know me? Whoever has seen me has seen the Father. How can you say, 'Show us the Father'? Do you not believe that I am in the Father, and the Father is in me? The words that I say to you I do not speak on my own, but the Father who dwells in me does his works. Believe me that I am in the Father, and the Father is in me. But if you do not, then believe me because of the works themselves. Very truly I tell you, the one who believes in me will also do the works that I do, and in fact will do greater works than these, because I am going to the Father. I will do whatever you ask in my name, so that the Father may be glorified in the Son. If in my name you ask me for anything, I will do it." So first let's start with Philip, who we know a little bit more about. Philip only shows up by this name in John's Gospel. He was called after Jesus had called Andrew and Peter to be his disciples. Philip then, in good church mission way, everybody invite a friend to church kind of day kind of thing, Philip then invites his friend Nathanael to come and see Jesus. Nathanael is the one who says, "Can anything good come out of Nazareth?" And Philip is the one who says, "Come and see." Then later in John's Gospel, it is Philip in the story of the feeding of the 5,000 that is told by John, who is the one who asks the question, "How are we to buy bread so that these people may not eat?" And he goes on to say 200 denarii would not buy enough bread for each of them to get a little. And here it is that we see Jesus being asked by Philip to show us the Father, and we shall be satisfied. We'll finish with that here in just a minute, because that gospel is indeed an important part of any of our commemorations of the disciples. Like I said, let me just turn to James for just a second, then we'll come back and finish with that gospel from today. James is known as James the Less, as I said, to distinguish him from the more well-known James. He appears in the list of the 12, often as James the son of Alphaeus, but probably the most pronounced mention of him is in Mark's Gospel, where along with Jesus' mother and the other women, he is mentioned as James the Younger, who is standing at a distance and watching Jesus as he dies upon the cross. But that's it. It's important, though, to say not that that's it, but most of us who are called to be disciples are called to roles that are not going to be glamorous, that are not going to be well known, that might not make us onto one of these lists, these saints lists after all, but are those who quietly have followed and have been present with Jesus and have been moved by the Spirit of Jesus to continue to proclaim the good news of God through the ministry that is ongoing of Jesus Christ. And here's where we return to John's Gospel, which is a reminder of Jesus constantly showing the Father to us, and in turn we are showing the Father's presence to one another. Philip's question and Philip's invitation back to Nathanael, come and see, is the great invitation that we can offer as Christians. In fact, it's one of the most important things we can say as Christians in this day and age. Not, you need to be saved, or when was your salvation date, or when were you saved, as I have been asked even as a priest several times, or beating people over the head and telling them that your ways of believing or interpreting the Bible are the right ways. One of the best things of evangelism we can do is simply to recognize and cherish what we have in our faith and in our church, and invite people whom we love and truly want to have them experience the joy of what we have as disciples of Jesus and as faithful Christians and Episcopalians, for them to say simply, come and see what it is that we have, and invite them into the fellowship where they can see Christ's presence in a way that they may not have seen before. This is the Great Commission to Jesus' disciples, their commission to the apostles after them, and in this tradition of apostolic succession, fitting as our bishop is visiting us today here at St. Stephen's, understanding that the faith passed down from generation to generation is about sharing a story of hope, a story of life-giving and life-saving transformation, a story which begs nothing less of us than to invite one another to come and see. Thanks for joining me. Look forward to seeing you for our Saint of the Day tomorrow. Take care.